Welcome to Marketing, Media, and Money, your go-to podcast for proven profitable strategies, secrets, and resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. Here's your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. Now, I'm really excited today because we're going to talk about something that maybe everybody doesn't like to talk about or think about, but it's so very important. And we can't have a Marketing, Media, and Money podcast if we're not going to talk about things that really help you to do that, help you to market, help you to make more money. So today, we're going to talk about discovering and effectively communicating your vision, your values, and your mission. And why do you need to do that? Because the better you can communicate it to your clients, to your partners, to your vendors, the better that you will get referred, the better collaboration you will have, and the more money you'll put in your bank account. But not only that, but you get to be happier because now you're surrounding yourself with people who get your vision, value, and mission, and it aligns with theirs as well. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today before we dive in. So James Bryant is an entrepreneur, editor, publisher, business consultant, public speaker, and corporate trainer. With over 25 years of talent development experience, he is passionate about helping individuals and businesses discover and communicate their why. Besides being a husband and proud father of 4, he enjoys photography, reading, and music. And I love that so much. So, James, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Patty. It's a pleasure.
So let's just dive right in. So I feel like for some people, they may be listening and they're like, what's the difference between your vision, your values, and your mission? Right? You know, it seems like a lot, right? You know, and so for some people, they may have one of those and they just haven't separated them out. They're not sure, right? You know, I think when people think about their vision, okay, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. Their values, that's another, and their mission. And they are separate, but they entwine and say a lot about you and who you are at your core, but they're not exactly the same. Exactly. So before we dive in, would you tell everybody that, in your opinion, your expert opinion, per se, what is the difference?
So I'm going to start with vision, Patty. Your vision statement, either as an individual, as a family, as a business, as a company, it's your why. It's why you do what it is that you do. Now, oftentimes when you research and you look up how to create a vision statement, it talks first about, well, where do you see yourself going? I like to reposition that a little bit because as a client, as a customer, as a business, I'm not as interested in where you're going as why you're going there in the first place. And that really is what your vision statement is about. Why is it that I'm a publisher? Why is it that I'm a consultant? Why is it that I've been in training and talent development for over 25 years? Your values is how you go about achieving your why. It's your actions. So for me, for instance, for my business, Wildly Free LLC, we have things like authenticity. We have connection. We have intentionality. Words that mean a lot to myself and to my wife that allow us to look at the decision, the actions that we take and measure it against those things. And then finally, your mission statement is what it is that you do. For instance, if someone comes to me and they say, hey, James, what is it that you do? I'm an entrepreneur, an editor, a publisher, a teacher, a trainer, a facilitator, a designer, a leader, all of these different things. That's my mission. That's part of it. But my why is so much more important than that. My why is I do these things to enable others to be their best selves. That is what it is and why it is that I do the things that I do. You know, often, go ahead.
I think that that's really important because when people talk about, oh, you know, I'm a podcast host, I'm a magazine publisher, until they actually know what my vision is and what my values are, what I stand for, and if it aligns with them, who cares? Right? Who cares? Right? You know what I mean? And I know a lot of times when I'm talking to someone and they want to introduce themselves with all their titles, right?
Yes.
The title is just a title. It's credibility. It's just a title. What I really want to know is the other stuff, right? Like what you're saying, because that's what makes me want to say, oh, okay. So now that I know that, right? Now that I know that our vibe is right, now that I know what you stand for and it aligns with what I believe and what my values are, oh, good. Now I want to know more about you, because now I'm going to know whether I literally, to be honest, really care whether I ever talk to you again, right?
Exactly. And Patty, I've got a great story to illustrate this, a great business to illustrate this, actually. And it's something as simple as a small local coffee shop that I have in my town. So if you're like me, you are probably surrounded by dozens, if not hundreds of coffee shops, probably within 5 miles. And I am not talking about one of the major chains when I talk about this coffee shop. But going into it, it's like, what is it that they do? If I said, hey, what is it that this coffee shop does? They sell coffee, they sell pastries, they sell sandwiches, they provide a service, right? But that's not what I connect with them. What I connect is their vision, which is very simple. It's 3 words: love each other. That's it. That's their vision statement. And even before I knew that was what it was, going into the shop, I could see it. I could see it happening. I could hear it in their words. I could see it in the way they interacted with us, remembering my name, remembering my drink, greeting us, remembering little details, right? And really making sure that they took care of us. So you could see their vision was alive in their people. Because of that, and the coffee's good, don't get me wrong, we keep going back because we do enjoy the coffee too, but connecting with that vision statement, connecting with their why and their reason for being, encourages me to go back there, even though it's a little bit more expensive, even though it's a little bit slower. I'm going to keep going back there because that is what is in alignment with my own personal why as well, versus going to a different shop that may be a little bit faster, maybe a little bit cheaper, but it doesn't have that same vision, and you can feel it in the service that they provide.
I think there's a lot of examples about that. I know that there are a couple of restaurants and stores that I like to shop at that close on Sunday.
Yes.
And even though, I'm home on the weekends and on Sunday, sometimes I'm like, oh, we're going to go there. And I'm like, oh, wait a second, we can't go there. They're closed on Sunday. I have to tell you, I respect it so much because that they value allowing their employees to be home on Sunday to be with their family. So I have to tell you, that aligns with who I am. And then we couldn't really go any further unless we said something about Southwest Airlines. I mean, they are known for how they treat, the people that are on the plane. They treat us so good. Their customer service. I mean, when you go to work for them, they teach them how to tell stories. I mean, they're so funny, even when they say, the little announcements they have to give over the mic, and people will still go, even though they know they have to stand in line, they don't have a special seat and all those things because they like the way they're treated. And I think that also, when you allow people to know what your vision, values are and your mission, it makes it easier for them to align with that. And then they become loyal fans and they come back because they align with what you stand for, whether or not maybe you even have the best coffee, right? You may not have the best coffee, but you have good coffee. But if you make them feel good and stuff, they will come back for that no matter what. So I feel like it is very, very important. So James, in your opinion, why do you think entrepreneurs struggle with articulating their company's vision despite maybe communicating their mission, but they just really can't get them all? They struggle with it. And I think sometimes people will tell you what their mission is, and that's really their vision. They get them mixed up. They don't always actually know. So why do you think that entrepreneurs struggle with that so much?
So I've walked into many entrepreneur shops and seen vision statements and mission statements up on the walls and going, they weren't always good. But to your point, when I think of an entrepreneur, especially when I think of a solo entrepreneur, there's a lot that they have to do, right, Patty? They are the face of the company. They are the person that's doing the work. They're the person that's connecting with the clients. They're the person that is doing all the finances, the bookkeeping, the payroll. They're doing all of those pieces. There is a lot that is on their plate. And, I like to think of myself and my own experience. And I'll be completely honest, I wasn't the greatest at articulating my vision and mission and values when we were first starting our business. When we started Wildly Free, and this is myself and my wife, we had an idea. We had lots of ideas. We had been entrepreneurs for a very long time in different fields and different businesses in different ways. And we kept struggling because we were all over the place. We were doing not necessarily the things that we always felt people needed, but we were also doing the things that we were interested in as well. And we had different ideas. And it came down to we were sitting down, we were actually at a networking meeting. And someone asked me what it was that I did. And I said, I'm a publisher. Very first time I'd ever said these words. Very first time. It came out of nowhere. I said, I'm a publisher. And part of the reason that I said this was I had been doing editing for a long time. My wife had written books that had been published through other services. And I was speaking with this person who was wanting to write a book, but she didn't know where to begin. And I was like, I can help you. I can help you tell your story. So that's a little bit of the what, right? That's a little bit of the mission. But then it came down to, well, why did I want to do that? So I looked at it and it's like, well, my wife's voice is being heard. Her story is being told. But there are so many people out there that don't know how to articulate their own story. They're not sure how to be authentic and share it, whether it's social media, books, podcasts, videos, or whether it's just with themselves or their families. I said, really, the reason behind Wildly Free, and this is kind of how it became what it is today, is that we wanted to enable and empower people to tell their own stories, even if it was for themselves, their family, or other people, whatever platform it might be, because it's so hard to just sit down and start and know where to start and where to go. So in answer to your question, I know I went around a little bit of why is it so different for entrepreneurs. So often when you're starting, you're just like me, you're just like my wife, and just like our business. We're a little bit of everywhere as we looked for our niche and looked for where it was that we wanted to go. And the more and more we narrowed that down and realized this is what we were most passionate about, which takes time, that is really when our vision statement, our mission statement, and our values came into being.
I love that because I really feel like what I find so interesting, but I realize I'm in marketing, is that people will spend money on all these different things. Oh, I have to, I need to have a website and I need to do this. And maybe I should have a podcast and I should write some blogs and I need to have a presence and I need to network. And they do all these things, but yet they won't sit down and figure these things out, because if you have these things figured out, these 3 things, everything else will be so much easier.
Right.
Right? Now, with that said, like you're saying, sometimes you're still trying to figure it out, right? You're still trying to figure it out. And sometimes we need help. That's why we have coaches, right? Coaches have coaches, right? So, but when you're thinking about it, it is important, because I feel like the faster somebody can either look at something on your website or see those things in what you're sharing helps them get there faster, because then it really becomes, are you the person, right? But once they know, right, they may be looking for, I'm in marketing and there's thousands and thousands of people in marketing, right? Not all of them are my client. It's, does somebody get my vibe and know, like, and trust me, know what I stand for, know what my vision, values, and mission are, and it aligns with them, makes it so much easier to go from way up here to narrow it down, right? Now, recently I had a chance to look at your website. And I'm going to tell you, when people go to your website, there is no doubt that they will know your vision, your values, and your mission in less than 5 minutes. Like, there's just no doubt. Either they will look at that and they will know either you're for them or you're not for them. If you're looking, if that's what you're there for, if you're looking for the services that you provide, and Rochelle as well. So when you're thinking about it, it is crystal clear, right? So people need to be able to get really, really clear on that first. Now, again, it's not in stone. Now, the things that are your values probably aren't going to change much once you articulate them, right? Your values are your values. But maybe your vision could change, like our vision changes, right? And it's okay. It's not set in stone, right? So I think that is important. Your why probably isn't going to change a lot, right? But I mean, if you're in business for 20 years, 20 or 30 years, maybe your why in the beginning might not be exactly the same 20 years later, right? But your values should be, right? So I think that that is why it is really important. So what steps would you recommend for entrepreneurs and business owners who are looking to uncover and define their company's vision, values, and mission? Like, is there a little bit of a framework or some steps that make it a little bit easier for them?
Definitely. And I do want to add a little bit to what you were just saying about things changing. Your mission, your vision, and your values, I prefer not to think that they change. I prefer to think that they evolve. So exactly. You're going through 20 years of being in business, it's going to evolve. The services that you provide evolve, correct? As the world evolves. Your vision statement may evolve somewhat, though the core part of it, your core why, should remain the same. And your values may evolve a little bit as well as your business changes, right? How you go about doing it is going to change as your mission changes, but your vision should stay pretty solidly the same throughout. Again, it may change a little bit. So let's talk about how you go about defining what your vision, what your values, and what your mission is. So first, I always like to encourage my clients to imagine what their current state is, right? What is the current state of your business? What are the current things that you do? And where do you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years? And dream big. That's the thing about vision, is it is a big dream. It is a big why. You're not narrowing it down at this point, right? If there's anything that, if everything was an ideal state, where would you want to be in that 5, 10, 15 years time frame? We do this with our family. We do this with our business. We even do this with our children as well. Then ask yourself, what do you love doing? What are you passionate about? But more importantly, why are you passionate about it? So you mentioned in the beginning that I'm a musician. Yes, I'm a musician. I love music. I love singing. I love composing. I love conducting. I love playing the piano because it brings me joy. It brings my family joy, and it allows me to connect with my community in different ways. So you have to understand, what is it that you love doing? What are you passionate about, and why? The other thing, and this is something that I've encouraged many people in your career. If you're unhappy with what you're doing, figure out why. And ask yourself, what is it that you do love doing, and why do you love doing it? And once you've identified that, go and do it. Whether you can make a career out of it, whether you can make a business out of it, whether you can make a hobby out of it. Discover what you love, discover what you're passionate about, determine why you love those things, and then find a way to make them happen in your own life. Okay, a little bit of a tangent, but that's just something I want to encourage our listeners to. Then, now I want you to sit down and I want you to write down your strengths. Brainstorm. Write down every single thing that you can identify as a strength on a piece of paper. And shoot big, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, however many things. And it doesn't just have to be in your business life. It can be in your personal life as well. It can be with friendships. It can be with your family. It can be with your spouse. It can be with your children. And don't just rely on your own memory. Go out, find your colleagues, find your friends, find your family, find previous people that you've worked with as well, and ask them the exact same question. what are my strengths? What am I good at? We're not asking for opportunities. We're not asking for weaknesses. We're only focusing on strengths with this list, and that's important. You're going to get some repetitive things. You're going to get some items that kind of fit into a theme. You're going to get some words that maybe they're synonyms. Write them down no matter what. You want to write down everything that you get from your own recollection and from your time chatting with other people as well. And once you've got that list, start to narrow it down. Start to identify the things. What are the commonalities that go across? One of my commonalities is communication. So when I have this conversation with other people, they consistently say things about how I'm clear, kind, and concise with my communications. So I narrow that down to communication skills, right? That's one of my strengths. But they keep narrowing it down until you have probably anywhere from about 3 to 5. And these are your big rocks. And guess what those big rocks can become, Betty? They become your values. They're how you go about doing the things that you love doing. So you've identified your why, because that's what you love and what you're passionate about. Why? You've identified your strengths, your values through doing that brainstorming and that session chatting with other folks. And then you say, okay, now how do I bring what I love and my why and my strengths into alignment? That's where you come to your what. That's where you come to your mission. Because now when they're in alignment, you find what it is that you love doing, what you're good at, what you're strong at. You identify your target, like who is my customer, who is my client, who is my business going to be geared toward, right? And then that becomes your mission. That turns into your business idea, right? But you've got to do that inner work first so that it helps you be successful in your mission and what it is that you do.
No, I really do love that. So now that you get to the point where you know what that is, right? How can entrepreneurs and business owners ensure that it resonates and they communicate it well to their team internally and to their customers externally, right? Because now you actually have to communicate it and then have it resonate with them, right? Because we all know that if your team is on board, right? If they sort of are like owners of the company, they take ownership, right? You're going to get a lot more done. Everyone's going to be happier and you'll be much more effective and productive. But how can you ensure that those things do resonate with them internally and to your clients externally?
So 2 words, very intentional: practice and preach. And they're in that order for a reason, okay? Notice I did not say preach and practice. It's practice and preach. If you have your mission, your vision, and your values on your wall in a pretty frame, but you can't see it in action, then they're just pretty words on a wall, right? So it has to first come through your actions as the entrepreneur, as the business owner. You have to live it. You have to practice it. It has to be visible so the people on your team, your clients, your customers can see it. Just like I talked about the coffee shop, right? Before I knew what it was, I could see it in their actions and I could hear it in their words. They were practicing it. Then it comes to preach it. So for instance, if I am an entrepreneur, I'm a solo entrepreneur, it's just myself and my wife. We don't have a team right now. That's perfectly okay. We talk about it with each other. So we're preaching it to each other. But I promise you, when we hire or we contract or when we find someone that we need to use their services to help our business expand, one of the very first things we're going to tell them is, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is how we go about doing it. And this is what it is that we're doing. And the same way with our teams. If you're not speaking to it in your teams, yes, you want them to see it. That's always the first thing. But you also need to articulate it to your customers, to your teams at the same time, so that they can bring it into their own business practices, so they can bring it into their own actions, so they can embrace and be a part of and be in alignment with what your business's vision is in the first place. That's when you're going to find one of your best employees. Funny story. used to work for a company years ago, over a decade, where one of their core values was love us or leave us. And I speak to this story all the time. Love us or leave us. I was their director of training. So you can imagine the very first day as I'm chatting with brand new people that just got hired into the company. I'm introducing them into the mission and the vision and the values. And I come down to my favorite core value, love us or leave us. And you could just see their eyes just like, what do you say? What do you mean? It's like, love us or leave us? Why are you using the love word, right? And I said, it comes down to something very simple. Love what you do. Love the things that you do on a daily basis. Think of it. I get to get up and have a conversation with you. I get to get up and go and work with my clients and my businesses and my customers. So I love what I do. So I get to keep doing it. And this is where it comes down to the find what you love and go and do it, right? Because if you don't love what you do, if you're miserable every single day, then it's going to show, it's going to reflect in the work that you do. So after practicing it, you make it visible, you make it seen, preach it as well so that your clients, your customers, your business partners, your teammates, your employees know what it is that you are living on a daily basis too.
Love it, because by doing that, it's not just words on a page or words coming out of your mouth, but you're actually integrating it into your company's culture and your operations.
Yes.
And I think when the people you work with, whether they are team, whether they're your collaborative partners, right? Vendors, anybody you're doing business with, I think that when they can see it, feel it, know it, what you stand for, and what to expect, it makes it easier for them to make a decision too, whether it's a client that's going to lean in and say yes, whether it's somebody who's going to collaborate with you, whether they even know all the details, just to share a story, and it actually has to do with your wife. So, Rochelle, I remember one day when I was sharing with her my vision for the retreat and the mastermind and taking people to Italy. And I was telling her about it. And I was just saying, what do you think? Like, I was really excited about it. And she's like, I'm in. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just sharing it with you. And I haven't even told you the price yet. And she said, I don't care. Like, I want to travel the world with you, Patty. I love what you just said. Like, I'm in. But I feel like, to what you're saying, the reason why she was able to do that is because she did know my vision, my values, and my mission already. So she didn't have to ask all the questions. How are we going to do this? What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. She didn't need to ask all those questions. And I have to tell you, I think it is something as an entrepreneur that we need to behave responsibly.
Yes.
I think it is something that is very, very important. When you are sharing those things, right, you need to make sure you show up intentionally every single day in them, because when you tell them and people trust you, now they believe you. You don't get to just kind of say, oh, well, today I had a bad day, right? Today I had a bad day. You're responsible for your actions, right? And I feel like when you build relationships, because this is what we're doing, right?
Yes.
When you build relationships with people and they trust you, it is a wonderful feeling, right? It is a wonderful feeling to get to the point where you have that relationship with somebody, but you do need to treat it responsibly, because now they know what to expect from you. You shared that and they trust you to do it. And you have a responsibility to your employees, to your clients, to your collaborators, to all of them. Like, I feel like every person who reads my magazine, to the listeners to my podcast, I have a responsibility that in our mission, value, and vision, this is what they can expect. And they need to know that I'm going to deliver that because I said I would, right? And so I think it is really important. And so how would you say you would advise entrepreneurs on how they need to balance, right, the authenticity with the need to appeal to their target market? So when they're out there looking for new clients and and stuff, there's a balance there, right? For me, not so much. Excuse me, that unclear, and it affects everything I do. But if somebody isn't so clear, if they're not so clear and they haven't nailed that down, they're trying to balance being authentic. They're trying to go out and get clients. They're not exactly sure who their target buyers are. What would you say would be something that they can do, and how can they balance that? Because I think that's really important.
And it is an important question. And, I'd thought about this for a while. I sat down a couple of days ago and I was reflecting on this idea of how do you balance your own personal values, your own personal vision, your own personal mission with the community that's around you. Because if you think back to just over the past, decade, there's several businesses and companies that when they stuck to their mission, vision, and values, actually got in trouble a little bit for it. And for a variety of different reasons, a variety of different circumstances, but and as a consumer and as a client and as a customer, when I thought about those businesses, I was like, well, of course you need to change. Of course you need to evolve. Of course you need to define that balance in thinking through that by not being inclusive. By not being inclusive in your business practices, you are missing out on all these opportunities to serve different types of customers and different types of clients. But then I kind of flipped it over the past couple of days, and I was thinking about it from the perspective of an entrepreneur, that my values are my values. My vision is my vision. My mission is my mission. And I want it to evolve. I want it to change, and I want it to grow as needed. But at what point do I kind of draw that line in the sand? And I go, this is where I stand firm and I won't cross over. If someone comes and asks me to do something, and I'm not talking about doing things that are illegal. If someone comes and asks me to do something that doesn't align with my vision and my mission and my values and the way I go about doing things, at what point do I cross that line? At what point do I stand firm? And that really is a decision that every entrepreneur and every business owner needs to make for themselves. It's not something that I can make a recommendation for. It's not something I don't even think a coach could make a recommendation for, because it's something that you internally have to decide and make sure, are you being your authentic self while serving the community and the customers that you're with? So I hate to say, Patty, I really don't have an answer to that one, because I'm really it myself.
That is an answer, though. Like, I know for me, when I am creating balance, I am very, very clear. And one of the things for me is I don't like to go down rabbit holes, and I don't like to have to analyze because I can tend to analyze till I'm paralyzed. And one of the ways that I have done that is by being so clear on my vision, my values, and my mission that I was able to set a criteria for myself to make decisions, right? So for me, it's like, here's the questions in my criteria, and it makes it easy for me to say yes, no, or no, not now.
Yes.
Right. And it's really, really clear for me. I know what I stand for. I know what I believe, and I stay true to that. I stay really, really true to that. So I do feel like where the balance is kind of almost within ourselves. But the bottom line is it's our business.
Yep.
We are the CEO of our business. So I think that is really important. So as a father of four, right? As a father of four, I'm so blessed that I've met your children, and they are absolutely amazing. How do you integrate your own personal values and mission into your family life? And what lessons do you hope to impart to your children about those principles? Now, I know you guys homeschool. In the most amazing way, right? In the most amazing way. And I have really watched how you've integrated some of those things when you vacation, and some of the ways that you have taught some really amazing ways, right? But how do you integrate your own personal values, at least? I think that is really important to know.
And it is. And and it comes down again to practice and preaching. But just for context for our listeners, I have 2 sets of twins. So yes, I have 4 children total. Patty didn't show that. I've got 2 16-year-olds and I have 2 10-year-olds. So my 16-year-olds are getting ready to graduate from high school about a year to a year and a half early, which is absolutely amazing, especially if you go to our website, wildlyfreellc.com, and you look at the stories of our children and some of the things that they've overcome. And my wife and I I'm in my 50s, she's in her mid 40s. And we were of the generation where we were told that you had to get good grades in high school to get into a good college, to go to college, to then get good grades to get into your master's program, to get good grades to graduate with your master's program, to go and get a good job, to then work for that same company for 20, 25, 30, 45 years, etc.
And get a pension.
Because that is what our parents did, right? So there's very much of that mindset of you got to go to school, you got to go to school, you got to go to school, you got to go to school to be successful, to be anything in your life. And what we tell our children is, and it goes back to finding what you love, right? If what you love and what you want to do and why you want to do it requires that you go to college and needs you to go to college, or if that's what you want to do because you still want to explore because you're not really quite sure yet. I know when I was 16, I didn't know quite what I was wanting to do. Then we will support you and we will help you get there. But we don't want to limit them. We don't want them to limit themselves. And we also don't want to limit their options. The reason our business's name is Wildly Free is because we want to live wildly free. We homeschool so we can travel, so we can work from wherever we want to work from in the United States. We have unlimited options for where it is that we want to go. And we're teaching and showing and demonstrating for our children the same thing. Don't limit yourself into thinking that you have to follow a certain trajectory with the rest of your life. If you want to go to college, fantastic. If you don't want to go to college, that's okay too. If you want to take a gap year and explore, if you want to go to trade school, if you want to be an artist, if you want to go into business for yourselves and work with us as well, we're opening up for those options. And that is what we tell them on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, every single time we sit down with them. Their path is theirs. It doesn't have to look like the path that I've gone or the path that Rochelle, my wife, has gone. It's theirs to choose. We're here to support them. And that is what we demonstrate to them every day.
See, now that is really communicating what your vision, values, and mission is, like at home, right? Because we didn't even touch on that, nor probably will we, on how, is your vision, values, and mission showing up in your business, and is it also showing up at home, right? And there's probably a whole episode I could do just on that, right? But I have to tell you, I think this has been a really great conversation about the things that people don't think about, right? The things that they're thinking, oh, I got to go out there and get more clients. I need to go out there and market my business. Oh, I need to show up more on social media. I need more followers. I need to get a course. I need to be out there speaking. I need to write a book. Maybe you do need to do all of those or some of those or whatever. But if you do know what your vision, your values, and your mission is, every one of those will be easier, not just for you, but for those that you're choosing to serve, right? It just becomes so much easier all the way around. So I have to tell you, James, I really appreciate you sharing your insights with me. But here I have to say, this is the part of the show where I like to call it #open mic, where I ask my guests if they would share, if you got to narrow it down, right? And you shared so much, but if you had to narrow that down to one thing, one marketing, media, money strategy, what would that strategy really be?
So Patty, really, and we've been speaking about it throughout this entire time, understanding and articulating your vision, your values, and mission is going to enable you to connect in an authentic way and emotionally with your clients, your customers, and your teams. They're a lot more likely to connect with your brand when they understand what your underlying values are, when they understand what your underlying beliefs are, and when they understand and can see your why. So for business purposes, really having those clear guiding principles allows you to make decisions that are in alignment to your vision, your mission, and your values. Alignment and authenticity is the key here, because it allows you to ensure that the decisions you're making are the right decisions and moving your business in the right direction. If you don't understand what that mission, vision, and values are, then it's a lot more difficult to make sure decisions that you're making are steering you in the right direction. So it enables you, it helps you create that consistency, it builds trust, and it builds loyalty.
Wow, you just summed that up so good for us, James. So thank you so much for being here with me today, James. I really appreciate you sharing your insights and then really showing us how you're walking your talk. You're not just talking your talk, right? And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thanks, Patty. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And to my audience, thank you so much for being here with us. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I'm sure you did. And if you did, please review the episode. And if you haven't checked out our magazine, the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine, I invite you to do that too. And you can grab a free copy of that at www.m3magazine.com. And until next week, I hope you have a phenomenal week. Thank you so much for being here.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at m3magazine.com. That's M3magazine.com. I promise your business will thank you.